Paltrocast.
First question I have for you, besides how are you, is do I call you Harry? Do I call you Mr. Walker? What do you like?
Whatever you want. I can only guarantee that I will process hair, or at least if you like saw me from behind in the public, I think I'd only process that Harry was me.
Well, Harry, good day for you so far?
Yeah, good days. I woke up that long ago, so we're just getting it started. But yeah, it's good. What about you?
So far so good, but we need an energy drink or two. Do you have the coffee? If not, we'll keep this short so you can get to the coffee.
Oh no, we don't need to keep it short, but I am getting to the coffee after this. That's the first thing on the agenda after this.
Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm a fan of your music because it's the rare case where the riff is memorable and well produced and hooky, yet the lyrics are meaningful. So, cliched question here. Do the riffs come first or do the hooks, the vocal melodies come first?
Oh, great question. Thank you. It means a lot, especially you obviously know what you're talking about with the shirt, with the lyrics that mean something and the riffs that stick.
Well,
I'd
yeah,
say,
it is a comparable thing. I don't immediately say, hey, that's a Sabbath influenced person, but it might be now that I think about it.
oh, for sure. Yeah, Sabbath's one, especially for the first record. That was probably my biggest influence for that. But it's one of those things where it's just like in my DNA, that was just you rediscover things and whatever. And that was like my moment, my second wave. But it's like tied into everything I do. But that's a really good question. I'd say anytime there's a riff, I'm trying to think if there's any exception to this, but I think that every time, if not like almost every time I write a riff, it probably starts with the riff because like it's not really like in my kind of process of making music, like layering it on the computer and stuff like that. Usually vocals would be last, not maybe last to be like recorded all the way through, but like if I'm like working on like a verse or a loop or something like that, I'll do like the bass, the guitar, the drums, and then the vocals, and then maybe I'll move on to the next part or something like that. But so usually I'll start with either like a progression or a groove or something, which wouldn't my first inclination wouldn't necessarily be to think of a riff over one of those things. You know what I mean? It would be more so to think of like a bass line or a melody or fill that out or something. So if there's a riff, it usually started with a riff. I'm trying to think if there's any exception, but it is kind of like, I guess now these days, my approach to writing, if I could break down my approach to writing music into like two categories, it's like riff guitar based writing and then like melodic sort of I don't want to say synth based writing because I can easily do the melodic stuff on like a guitar, even like an electric guitar. But yeah, either kind of like guitar, electric guitar forward, like the music that I sort of had always gravitated towards in my life thus far, and then sort of like, approaching it a little bit more like, I don't know, alternative song. Not that I think of it like that or anything like that, but I think that's just kind of how it ends up shaking out.
Well, of note about those riffs, a lot of them have a fuzzy or a distorted tone. Do you have that tone initially when you're writing and demoing, or are you one of the people, as I expect, that writes on an acoustic and then changes the tone?
Yeah, pretty much. And whether I'm writing on the acoustic or on an electric with like just sort of a tone I haven't like really figured out yet or something. But yeah, the tone I figure out later, although I do have like my tricks, you know what I mean? I've got like my pedals I like and stuff like that I gravitate towards. And but like, you mess with it even if like to you it sounds the same. Like I could look at, it's not like I'm like going for different things or something like that on, let's say, the whole first record. It's not like I was like trying to get a different guitar tone for like Tear Down the Wall than Disturbed Suburbia or something. In fact, probably subconsciously I was like looking for the same thing. But when you've just got kind of like a different backbone to it and you're tweaking it until it sounds perfect, you're probably just going to end up in a slightly different place, even if you're using the same bass and the same drums recorded in the same room and the same, it will still probably just, and even if you're aiming for the same kind of mark, it will still probably end up slightly different because it's a different day and it's a different song and it's, you know what I mean? So I'm never thinking like, oh, I got to get back like the tone or something like that. But, like I'm using the same pedal, same guitar, same stuff, same idea, same. And so it ends up somewhere similar, but I don't have like the tone dialed in. I know a lot of people have that. They've got, like this pedal doesn't get touched. If I want this tone, I've got this pedal with this amp combo, and it never. I go back probably as a result of just not being as organized, not being organized enough to do that, not having enough shit to do that, not having enough space to leave
Right.
things untouched. I always start pretty much from scratch, even if I'm going for the same thing.
Well, one more procedural question here. As the person playing most to all the instruments on the tracks that we're hearing, besides kicking in the vocals, what's the order of laying down stuff? Because I've heard cases where the person lays down the drums, sings it to themselves as they track it down, and then build everything from there. And then I've heard of other people who are just good with click tracks and able to do the vocal and the guitar scratch track at the same time and then put the drums on last.
Damn, yeah, the first one you described, that's like the Stevie Wonder thing. He did that for some of his music. He'd like do the and I think without a click, I think he would just do the drums and he would just envision the entire song and then start building on top of that. The only instrument I don't play is drums, so I don't. So that's out. I would not be good enough to do that. But I do either. Now I do. I don't know at what point I made this switch. I used to kind of change song by song. Now I'm pretty adamant about getting, even if there's no drums in the song, even if I end up taking the drums out, I want to get some type of drums down so that just to further ensure that I'm on time. I can play to a click well, obviously, but like on Logic, the click can only even get so loud, and I like to have the volume kind of come from the input of the instruments. You know what I mean? So I don't want to make it really really quiet and non-powerful going in. I just I it's easier for me to work with if it kind of sounds how I want, closer to how I want it, without any mixing, without anything. And so I try to get like, either I'll make a very basic drum loop or I'll find a very basic drum loop on Splice or something and get that going just through the entire song indiscriminately, whether that would be happening in that part or not, whether there would be drums in that part or not. And then I will usually, depends on the song. I mean, I guess that the next one is just, the next thing I would do is just whatever the next thing I would write is, you know what I mean? I would say 9 times out of 10 it's bass. But if it's a riff, probably the riff is next. You know what I mean? If it's a riff kind of song, it's probably the riff. Sometimes, well, pretty often the first thing that I'll do after the groove is, if I've got a progression, I'll do it first on pad. Pad's a kind of nice like backbone to the song. I think, I never really have like a scratch pad track, so it's like if I get a pad down, then it's like that's the progression. I know where I am throughout the song. That's a really good kind of skeleton.
Right.
If bass isn't first, bass is definitely second though. I do not waste very much time without having bass on the song. It's my favorite thing to play. That's when it starts to kind of shape up into like something I can work with. You know what I mean? That's when I start to understand the attitude.
I'm gonna interrupt you and say I don't think you waste a lot of time in general.
Oh, thank you. That's I think I'm pretty efficient. One thing I'm very, just as a music maker, a lot of people have a really, really, really hard time knowing when to stop, and they can keep working on something forever. Very, very blessed that I am incredibly good at knowing exactly when to stop and move on to the next thing. Like as a song, as a part, whether it's like, a lot of people's like, it's not good enough. It's not. No, I know exactly when it's good enough. Even if I fucked up, I can be like, no, it's kind of a cool fuck up. Like moving on, I'm not lazy about it. Like where it's like, oh, fuck it, I don't want to fix it. But I am not precious about things. And I think my life would be a lot worse if I had that, so I'm just glad I didn't have to unlearn it. That might be my biggest strength.
Wow. Well said. And another notable thing about you is you have been endorsed by a band I'm going to see tonight, The Darkness. How did that happen? Any idea how Justin Hawkins found your music?
Actually, not really. I remember I think it was my mom, maybe, or maybe I saw it, maybe one of my sisters or something. But I was at the grocery store with my girlfriend, and I like got a text that was just the video. Like they didn't say anything about it, and it was like the title like didn't seem like nice. I remember it seemed like it was going to be like critical.
If I can interrupt you, I've been watching Justin Hawkins' podcast for a long time, and the title be like, is this band really even good?
Yeah, yeah,
Then you
exactly. It was
watch it
something
and he
like
doesn't
that.
say one negative thing about the video.
Exactly. No, I thought I was like, what? Like I was like, I was like, I need to like watch this right now. So I'm like watching it with that,
Why
and
do
I'm like
people
waiting
hate
for it to
this
get bad.
band? You know,
Yeah, no, it was literally like, it's like, what's all the fuss about, or something like that.
yeah.
And then it was like really not. I was like listening, waiting for it, just wait. And my mind was made up. I'm like, all right, what shit is he gonna talk? And so I'm like, okay, he's starting nice. And I'm kind of just like spending the entire time like, what are we gonna get to? You know, it was so fun. Yeah, it was really, it was really funny. I don't know how that came about though. Um, he's awesome though. Yeah, I've seen a few of those videos. Those are amazing. I guess that was like the first one I saw, I'm pretty sure, except maybe like clips on like TikTok and stuff. But that definitely like got me into it. I watched a bunch after that. But yeah, that was my main. That was the first time I remember hearing about it. Was like someone who also didn't expect it. Like I think my mom was like, "What's this?" Like you know what I mean? And I was like, "What? Like is this gonna be bad?" But
Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome.
He's super artist friendly, despite what it seems. In other words, that guy's not out competing against other artists going, why is he successful? He's going, great, I have peers. So that was great to
Absolutely.
see that happen. And then another accolade is signing a Warner Chappell publishing deal while not a major label artist. Did that come because Tom is an excellent manager, or did
Yeah.
that come because you have a history with writing library music and they go, oh, this guy's good?
Oh dang! I mean, it definitely came about because Tom. That one was a Tom thing. I would not be surprised if what made me appealing to them was how much I do out or have done outside of Moonwalker, you know, with sound libraries, and my back catalog is big now. I have other bands, I've written for other artists. Like there's a lot of like, because you know a publishing entity is not really in the business of like signing a band or something like that. Like they don't have really as much interest in like, oh, this band is up and coming. It's more like they're going to represent a songwriter, they're going to represent. And so I do think that you know, I happen to be lucky. I have a lot kind of under my belt as a songwriter that's
Yeah.
not just Moonwalker, but I am Moonwalker, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a big thing. I don't know how much they would care about just kind of like just like a solo project doing well, you know what I mean? If that was sort of all that I was capable of, the only type of music that they could hear that I've done. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't even know really how kind of that was, what type of stuff they were asking Tom to send them and whatever. But I definitely wouldn't be surprised if my experience on that end of things helped. But I'm definitely not going to take any credit away from Tom for sure.
Well, two questions before I let you go. And the first one ties in with that Warner Chappell deal. So you're one of those artists where people will be like Moonwalker rather than going, that's Harry. Uh,
Yeah.
because it's a band name for essentially a solo artist, kind of like Dashboard Confessional or Five for Fighting. I don't know why those are the two that I think of
Yeah.
immediately. Do you have co-writing or outside or side projects that we're allowed to know about, or is it all Moonwalker all the time?
It is. I guess that was a little. It is all Moonwalker all the time. I, not that I'm not interested in collaborating with other people, or doing. It's funny. I did that way more before Moonwalker. I did before Moonwalker. It was split everywhere, and then I pretty much remember the first time that I like made enough for Moonwalker, and I was like, whoa. Okay, I don't need any of this other stuff. It'll come back as I need it or want it, you know. But like,
Mm-hmm.
this will be the only thing. So I actually did that a lot more before Moonwalker, and I would say the only way I would ever probably not release something as Moonwalker is if it was a collaboration, because like anything that's just me will be Moonwalker, I'm sure. I mean, I don't want to, I guess, like etch that into stone, but like that just feels like the kind of the project name for if I ever make my own music. But like if I ever wrote music with someone else or something, I'd probably feel, even if I was like singing it, even if it sounded like Moonwalker, I'd probably feel kind of weird having that be Moonwalker. You know, I don't, and like I do, it's funny you say it's like a band name for like a guy. I'm When I was starting the band, I didn't know how to like do it by myself. I was in a band and I didn't know how to like be a singer and stuff.
Right.
And so I asked my drummer, who was in my old band, who I was living with at the time, to like be in this with me. So we were in like the music videos and the pictures. And as we were naming it, the reason that I like Moonwalker was because I was like, there's gonna come a day where this is a solo project, like because the way that I like to do things, and part of the reason it became Moonwalker instead of the band is because I liked to do things differently than the other band members like to do things. So I was like, there will be a day where I'm comfortable being a singer, I'm comfortable being in a music video by myself, and this will be a solo project. Moonwalker is a band name, but also it's like a guy's name. You know what I mean? Like my dad had a friend named Moon, which always stuck with me, and then
Moon
Walker's
Zappa.
obviously a last name.
Yeah, agreed. Moon Zappa is, when I hear Moon, that's what I think of. But
oh yeah, that's totally right. Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, Moon Unit is just too many syllables, so she had to become Moon Zappa.
Exactly.
My
Makes
last
sense.
question before I let you go, and this question could be totally wrong and bomb, and please have some empathy if that's that. But the song "Give the People What They Want," is that a professional wrestling reference?
Not intentionally.
Because there is this tag team that's on televised professional wrestling called Best Friends, and every time in the middle of the match they hug, they do a bro hug thing, and the announcer then yells, "Got to give the people what they want," and then the camera pans out.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I've never seen that.
I guess
Maybe I'll be like
to.
the official WWE like song.
Well, this
When
one's
they do it, that the
AEW.
cue will start.
There's a chance that AEW is looking for that, but the bottom line is not a reference, just a good sentiment, I guess.
Just a good. It is funny. I don't know where that. Obviously, not like it's a popular phrase. It definitely started with the phrase, though. That song, for sure, the first thing that kickstarted the song was the idea that it would be called "Give the People What They Want." I'm now desperately trying to think of where I again. Not that I haven't seen it a million times, but like I'm trying to think of what put that in my head a couple months ago.
Now I know. Well, the bottom line is while I will not be at your Bowery Electric gig this week, I look forward to the next New York one. Congrats on the new record, and really looking forward to everything that's come from you in the near future, Harry/Moon.
Yes, thank you so much, Darren. Thank you for taking the time.
Paltrocast.